Hi, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Trident Talks. I'm Josh, the founder of Trident, and today, happy to say, joined by Brad Palm, COO of Dreadnode. Brad, thanks for joining.
I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks for having me on.
Brad, super excited to have you on and kind of deep dive into the business, the why, the when, the how. I love your guys' brand. I see you at all the conferences, and I love the hat. Tell me about you first. Like, tell the audience, like, who's Brad Palm? What's the kind of background? What's the origins? And how did you get into cyber?
Yeah, I think we share a common thread in our backgrounds. But came up as a mechanical engineer and then went into the military. So I was a Marine, United States Marine, and I got to exercise some of those engineering muscles as a combat engineer. But usually the mission set's quite a bit different than being like a classical engineer. Once you go military side, it's very expeditionary, and it's usually how do I breach things? How do I break things? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Nice.
had the pleasure of, partway through my career of kind of learning how to be offensive and defensively minded to jump in and do a computer science degree at the Naval Postgrad School. I was able to then kind of take that meat space or physical kind of like, security domain expertise and then apply it to the virtual or cyberspace. So went on to work at a really interesting military testing facility on the West Coast that focused on weapon systems testing with a red team flavor, making sure that before they go out into the fleet, that they were kind of up to standards and be manipulated in a nefarious fashion. Did about 10 years in the Marine Corps and left. I've been in cybersecurity ever since, kind of as an entrepreneur doing startups, offensively focused and defense.
Nice, awesome. Thank you for the context. So did you do your bachelor's while still serving?
No, I did it pre going in. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, fine. So you were probably the most qualified Marine going into basic training.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how our pipelines work. I think they're a little bit different than yours, but we do get the opportunity
Yeah.
to work with British Royal Marines
Yeah.
frequently through some of our different training cycles. So I still remember the one standing up on like this PT or like physical training box. He was over there
Yeah.
just
White
destroying us
shirt, red
early morning.
stripes. Yeah.
Yep, just
Yeah.
destroying us early mornings in his British accent. So always good. And then I had the pleasure of serving in Afghanistan with British Royal Marines, and that was an absolute highlight.
Yeah, awesome guys. Yeah, it's we obviously worked with the USMC a hell of a lot and very closely knit, and not just in the Middle East either. Like lots of what do we call them? Like relationship building exercises with certain nations. So it's been pretty cool stuff. Okay, cool. So bring us kind of like up to speed. Dreadnode. Cool name. Where does the name come from? What's the origins? The kind of the founding story. And we'll go into some more after.
Yeah, so Dreadnode is unashamedly an offensive AI company. I'll kind of unpack some of these terms here as we rip through them. But we firmly believe, and we drink the Kool-Aid, that agentic AI will transform cybersecurity. And we understand that in order for agents to achieve kind of this goal that we're setting out for them, they have to be trusted experts. That cyber evaluations and evaluations in general are kind of from the data science discipline, and they cannot be ignored and need to be a part of this as we map our domain expertise into agentic uplift. So Dreadnode exists to kind of explore the ceiling that we can have for agentic uplift within offensive cybersecurity. We envision essentially a world where people are trusting AI systems, do these evals, perform offensive tasks autonomously. I think we both come from a community where offense tends to lead defense. As an engineer, I'm designing defensive solutions on the battlefield based off enemy tactics, techniques, and procedures. It's the same in cybersecurity. So we really want to recognize, through the company, through our product, through our expertise, having the utmost confidence in your agents, the models that you're training, they're performing the tasks they need to, the objective they need to, with efficiency and efficacy that's desirable for them to be put out into production.
Nice. Okay, awesome. So tell us about the actual product line. Like, what do you currently have today? What are customers buying? Like, tell us about the actual, like, the when you are POCing with a customer, etc. Like the proof of value. Like, what does it look like now?
Yeah, so we went to market with three things, and I think everybody will tell you to do one thing, and we learned that lesson the hard way. No, we put a sign up for sales. We founded the company. That would have been right at the end of 23, going into 24. It was a CTF platform that could help our industry peers that are on the cybersecurity side kind of get used to thinking adversarially with this new kind of domain with AI and ML kind of tied to it, or data scientists coming and kind of putting on the adversarial hat and just thinking critically about these systems building. We put that out there as kind of a digital calling card, but we had a lot of feedback on doing custom CTFs, custom deployments. And so that kind of turned into a little bit of like a V1 of a mover, was Crucible, our CTF platform. Fall closely behind that, we were really focused on our North Star, which was we wanted to see agentic uplift doing cyber evaluation. So frontier model companies, well, oftentimes, Claude 3.7 is a great example of this model card, actually, where they engage with third parties to explore how dangerous the model could be in a certain context. You see this usually in like chemical, biological, radiology, nuclear, high yield explosive type assessments. Cyber is one of those assessments that'll be done. And really what you're asking that third party to do with your model is find things that would scare you, I guess in the most general terms, or would be impactful if an adversary were to bolt this on to their current operations, be effective, and then how far could they go with that? So we were working kind of behind the scenes on that, and we call it dog fooding internally, but leveraging our platform to deliver those solutions. And then we also were leading with an AI red team. So Crucible, CTF, Strikes is our agentic kind of uplift platform. Then Spyglass is an AI red team. At the end of the day, we decided to kind of launch this as a platform where these three things do share quite a bit of architecture and are able to interact with each other. And we can kind of get in that a little bit later of why that's important. But when you're training an agent, it is impactful to have a CTF available to see how well it's doing at something with a reward metric or a flag mechanic behind it, because you get very binary results out of was the agent successful at getting.
Okay, nice.
And then
so when I sorry, yeah, go on.
I was gonna say, and then to kind of cover down on the ask around kind of the customers and how we're working with folks. I still think we're in very much of an early adopter stage within the industry. And the first kind of movers and shakers were government, R&D, research labs. AC is a perfect example, the AI safety institutes, both the US and the UK. You can imagine the different government agencies that are interested in kind of agentic uplift for offense cyber, as well as the frontier model companies I recommended or kind of mentioned there briefly that are looking at cyber evaluation and actually have to do some kind of attestation against what that model is capable of. So yeah, government, labs, then kind of really forward-leaning AI red teams that are exploring this space. So I would say your classic Fortune 100s, 500s that have an in-house red team that's looking at research that might be influencing service lines. They're really leaning into this, looking for that tech-enabled services uplift, or just how to do their internal pen test better for the company and automation.
Yeah. And so if I am an internal red teamer and I work at a bank and I'm exploring this type of option and like trying to add the function and improve what we're doing and enhancing the internal stuff, like what am I getting from you? What am I having taking from the platform?
Yeah, I think Strikes, it could be a knock on us later on. We might, we always reserve the right to wake up smarter, but we did do a generalized platform that feels a lot like the combination of tools out there that we want to make more approachable to the cybersecurity expertise. So those common tools would be weights and biases, prefect. There's a myriad of tools out there that have been used by data scientists to bring about these generative models that are so impactful for industry right now. It's difficult for somebody to kind of map into those different disparate tools and figure out something that's impactful for them to actually map their domain expertise, their recipe into the system. So we really focus kind of on that experience. I think we're still iterating on it. But yeah, I think
Nice.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I would say about the platform is like you're going to get a shovel to build the most impactful agent with your domain expertise mapping. So it is a bit of a generalized platform. What we do to help folks is we seed example agents or even just example use cases where we pull up alongside folks. And I believe, again, that's indicative of the early stage nature of this kind of adoption. But you're going to find the most critical use case where they want to see this 10x, 100x uplift. that's ripe for automation, and then you kind of build alongside them. And I think we'll be in that state for a while where forward deployed engineers are really kind of making those use cases come to life.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes total sense. So moving on, I know you guys are or have released the AI red teaming research paper. I've read it. Well, I'll admit I haven't read all 45 pages, but I've read the kind of TLDR, right, which just means the synopsis and the first chapter of each page. But in all seriousness, why have you spent? Because your research team must have spent a hell of a time on this. Like, firstly, should we explain like what is the paper? What is AI red teaming? Kind of what's the research designed to do, or to at least highlight to people in the industry?
Yeah. Thanks for teeing that up. Yeah, they spent quite a bit of time and money. So I was just doing financials the other day, and we talked about that a little bit in the report. But inference costs ramp up as you're kind of slamming these systems and going through these iterations. So the AI red team benchmark that we've kind of proposed here in this paper, and given data points and kind of empirical analysis around, is we wanted to bring about an AI red team framework that tests LLMs against different CTF challenges that we host on our Crucible platform. These CTF challenges are not kind of classic cybersecurity challenges. They're more focused on the AI ML use cases. It's multimodality, where you may have a generative LLM challenge. You may have a vision challenge for voice, right? All kinds of different types of extraction, evasion, different flavors of what is available do adversarially against a model. And the question is if we hook up a red team agent with a harness, the harness is essentially these left and right bounds that you're giving your agent. It's tool calls that they're allowed to use. It's how hard they should try at this problem before kind of quitting on you. It's all the kind of the guiding rudder steers that you want this agent to go out and do this autonomous task for. And we set these up and let them rip across models. And classic benchmark fashion, you get to see, this case, frontier models kind of rise to the top. They were the cream that rose up, and performed at a really astounding kind of rate. And we also call out that some of our hardest challenges, an example would be Turtle. Some models were able to solve in 9 seconds, and we had humans working on that challenge for hours or days. So it really kind of shows this tie into like what is the multiplier of you have a great red teamer that's going up against this problem. You have an agent that does it in 9 seconds. You have a red teamer that can't get to solution. Obviously, on the automated side, they're leveraging speed and scale of automation, where the human's trying to kind of dissect what the actual kind of attack path here, where the LLM is able to just kind of jam and throw a bunch of queries at it. So let's see, why is it important to kind of our community? It was important internally for us to kind of give back to the community, to kind of, again, you've heard me kind of reference pushing the ceiling. That kind of comes through in our research, where we're exposing where we think people may have had previous limitations or biases on performance of agents. Then we kind of want to blow the top off of that and say, you got to open your eyes. There's impactful opportunities here to leverage these agents, both in AI red teaming testing, but you could easily extrapolate this and take it to cybersecurity in general. It's just one flavor of it. And, kind of just, it's a bit of a wake up moment. And then what we want to do is not hide behind necessarily our product. We talk a little bit about how the harnesses are built, not shoving marketing and product speak into it. But then at kind of the output of this research, we're dumping the data sets and analysis that people kind of go recreate these, or at least dig into the results and challenge them, much like an academic would. So we really try to keep it in that academic.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I kind of have 2 key takeaways when I read the report, right? And then I've got a kind of early sneak peek on the draft. But one was how scary it is if when threat actors can start maliciously using models, right? And people are just launching models into the enterprise environment because they have to, because they feel like they're going to get left behind. Employees are going to quit if they aren't allowed to use models, and Gen AI models particularly. So there's that kind of like deploy first, and then we worry about it after and hope no one can hack us through the model or maliciously use it. So that's kind of like not a FUD point, right? But it's just a genuine like wake up call to a certain degree. And it's a wake up call based on like the facts and the figures I saw and read come out of it. Like a model can act upon something like 5,000 times faster than a human being, right? When you talk about the 9 seconds versus hours and days, that would take probably a principal red teamer to initiate. And then the other side of it, I kind of thought after I read it was, from a Dreadnode point of view, it's amazing that therefore the enterprise environment or the advanced red teamers should be using agents that you're building to go and do what they can do and not have fear that it's going to replace them, but actually enhance what they can do. And then you can get more stuff done and you can protect the environment better. That's the two kind of takeaways I had from it.
Yeah, I think those are really good ones. I think keyed in on some important points for me just as a security practitioner is I think we've been trained and we know that FUD is usually not the way to deliver the message. It kind of got used and abused for a while in our space. And I think that's why we lean so heavily into the data, is to provide something that can be challenged and give solid fuel and motivation for actually exploring this space. So if you are a bit of the old guard and you're hesitant to adopt generative AI or just ML in general into your workflows, we're trying to provide motivation and bring people along this journey of saying, there is a better together approach here, and the critical thinking of the human is the right place to be kind of parking your brain throughout the day and solving really critical thinking hard problems versus just kind of going through the mundane rote, scanner outputs and all these different things, which is, as a red teamer, you land in an environment, you're scanning stuff. A lot of it is just data processing through eyeballs, unless you get a good pipeline going. LLMs are extremely impactful at this. So there's a lot of opportunity for kind of like a force multiplier approach here where you can be better together and the outcome is impactful on the industry because, to your point, we're just covering down on the gaps, the different, kind of asset gaps. It's just, we can make a larger dent in it. And then on the adversary side, I think it is a bit of a wake-up call that, people will continue to harness this technology, both for dual use capabilities, both good and bad. And I think it's as appropriate, white hat hackers or, responsible red teamers. You want to at least showcase what is kind of the state of the art or coming so that you can help influence and get folks prepared for it. And I know that's a hotly contested debate, open source, offensive tooling is always debated back and forth of the efficacy of it and like how much impact does it have. But I would say largely you'll find folks agree that it has advanced our industry and it's advanced the understanding of folks by not keeping things behind closed doors, allowing folks to.
Just a quick question, what come to mind. Are you seeing, or do you think there will be a big adoption of like a Dreadnode product inside the pen test consultancies? So I'm thinking of the Coalfires of the world, etc., to like a channel option, because surely they want to make their red teamers and pen testers more efficient, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely one of the initial markets that expressed interest was these sophisticated red teams that were leaning into AI. That represents services companies as well as just, the bank or, but these service companies are really leaning in. And I think some of it could be directly related towards, business mandates where you might have a board that is saying, hey, how do we prevent AI from eating our lunch in the next 5 years? Let's lean really hard into this topic. Let's make sure that we can recognize tech-enabled services as we've kind of dreamed of it. And we really need to kind of get on board with it. So I think there's a lot of folks that are kind of showing up at the doorstep with that mentality of future is here. Let's embrace it. Let's see what we can actually squeeze out of it. But I think the challenging part right now is I think cybersecurity space, we have a lot of silver bullets that have been thrown throughout the industry of like, this thing will solve your problem. And I think we're very practical with AI where it's like, there's a lot of work to be done here, but we're trying to highlight best practices. We're trying to show data points of things that give us aha moments where the light bulb is going off. Where we know like for sure this is impactful in an operational context. Like we could rip through networks with, this C2 hooked up to an LLM with this fine-tuned model behind it. I think that's really what we're exploring and trying to provide back to kind of some of those services folks for sure.
Yeah. I think it's in a good time because the whole world is an early adopter to using models, understanding the capabilities. Absolutely. Also, we haven't, I dare I speak too soon, seen the true impact of a bad model or a model used badly. Right. I'm sure we have, and we just haven't heard about it, but that's coming down the road, right? So I think it's good timing.
Yeah, I think the both Anthropic and Google have kind of done some like cyber threat intelligence reports they see as of their model for malicious activity. I think we kind of seeing like this incremental notching, almost like the water level rising a bit of adversaries kind of moving from the very quick, I would say, technique that they latched onto, which would be just much better spamming much better crafting of initial access type stuff. But I think you'll continue to see more and more reports kind of come out of this was a novel approach or this was a novel technique. But really, at the end of the day, as a red teamer, even just we know this on the coding side, right? The development world is on fire right now with the cursors and the sales and all these different things of they're seeing increased productivity, the GitHub copilots. But as an operator, when you're on a network and you come up against an archaic system that you need access to, that you think has proprietary business information or the critical asset on the network, you don't know how to code in that language, that barrier is completely removed. You're not going to try and staff a Cobalt dev of an op.
Yeah.
You're just jumping over to Claude, opening up a pane and saying, write me this custom payload. It's wild, So there's all kinds of interesting opportunities where it's probably being used in a dual use manner. It's just, it might not be getting classified as it overtly malicious at the moment.
Yeah. Good point. Brad, I've taken up enough of your time. It's been a great conversation. I will ask Tori to send a link to the research paper so everyone can read it in the comments. And obviously I'll put a link to your bio, your profile, anyone that can reach out to you as well, just wants to understand more about Dreadnode and what you guys are doing. I'm sure you guys will be at all the events like Black Cat coming up and stuff. So looking forward to catching up then.
I love it. I appreciate the time today, Josh. Thanks so much for having me on.